In Chapter 8, Karen Seccombe takes a look at the lives of welfare recipients, and in particular the factors, both personal and structural, that impact their decision or impact their lives as they go about the process of getting off welfare. Some thoughts about the welfare reform programs that recipients are faced with include the following: that between 1994 and 2009, 1994 being the start of welfare reform, families who received welfare have been reduced in the United States by 60%, from 5 million families to less than 2 million families, according to HSS, Health and Social Services reports. By this measure alone, welfare reform has been a smashing success, and individuals who in the political circles who will extol the virtues of welfare reform will point to these numbers and tell you this is what is most important. Exemptions are granted to some of the states, to individuals in some of the states who cannot work because of health or other factors, up to about 20% or so of the welfare caseload in any state. So that if there are individuals with chronic problems, they can remain on welfare and the time limits won't necessarily impact them. And so some of the people who remain on welfare are those people who are simply not employable. But for the rest of them, unable to move back and forth between welfare and work as necessary, with the job market being as uncertain as it is, recipients have no safety net left to help them when things go wrong. The California study that Seccombe talks about shows that the average recipient receiving public assistance has substantially fewer basic literacy skills than the average individual. Women in this group need more education, more training, and more coaching. Oftentimes, female recipients will have poor health, learning disabilities, or psychological or emotional problems. So these factors, whether it be educational issues or emotional issues, health issues, these factors do not make women desirable employees. And so the notion that a welfare recipient can suddenly decide she is going to stop receiving benefits from the federal government and just go to work is really kind of a false notion. It isn't as simple as that for many of the recipients that continue to receive benefits. Not all adults are psychologically, intellectually, and physically capable of supporting themselves and their families, and that's a key factor to keep in mind. The women who receive benefits are kind of stuck in the middle, and this is kind of where the title for these next few slides come from. Increasing human capital is what Seccombe refers to one's education, one's literacy skills, one's job experience. That's your human capital. So increasing human capital, that is through more job training and more education, is only one part of the answer. Many of the limitations that keep women from getting jobs are structural in origin. That is, structural, institutional in origin, not individual fault, but structural fault. For instance, there are too few unskilled, semi-skilled, or skilled jobs to go around for all the women who want them. Our unemployment rate right now is very high, but even in ordinary times, the unemployment rate is always going to be 5%, and this is a group of individuals. The old rule goes: last hired, first fired, and this is a group of individuals who will oftentimes be in that group. So there aren't enough jobs to go around. The jobs that do exist for welfare recipients tend to be low paying and without benefits such as health insurance, sick leave, and those kinds of things that these individuals may need. And the job training programs that exist are not designed to improve women's job prospects. The training programs that are often offered to welfare recipients are of very short duration and are far less comprehensive than they need to be. They focus on areas to help an individual develop their employability, maybe basic life skills, like the author says, dressing for success, or resume writing class, or how to improve your job interviewing skills, and that kind of thing. It's as though if we just give these individuals certain kinds of little fancy trainings to help them improve their presentation of themselves, that the jobs are out there for them to get. The idea is, Seccombe says, that welfare dependence is bad, work is good, and we can solve our welfare dilemma by giving people some quick rudimentary training and putting them to work as quickly as possible. Less than 1/3 of a state's caseload is allowed to pursue vocational training or education full-time. Those that do that are only allowed to do so for no more than 12 months. So now we're talking about something beyond the basic life skills, dressing for success kind of workshop. We're talking about real education, real vocational training, something that increases one's human capital. Enrollment in 2-year or 4-year college programs is discouraged by the TANF program requirements right now, and it's just not even a part of the work activities requirements. It wouldn't satisfy the work requirements. That was one thing that the jobs program did do, at least in many states, was allow recipients to count formal education hours as more or less work hours, and increasing their employability, and that through formal education. So the brief training programs that are made available to welfare recipients are superficial attempts really to teach women to market themselves to potential employers. There just is no realistic preparation, even so much as to point recipients towards things like Pell Grants and those kinds of things, so that individuals would even know that they might be eligible for financial aid and where to go to get it. A lack of work experience is the primary obstacle recipients run into in qualifying, or rather to find quality employment. The jobs that recipients have in their histories are usually low-paying, temporary kind of dead-end jobs that really are not the kinds of things that make, again, that contribute to their employability or make them attractive hires. The jobs that the jobs that they get, rather, don't tend to increase their human capital potential because of that, and they also, Seccombe talks about social capital, that is, making connections with people who can help you get other jobs, and these jobs don't really increase their social capital either. So really very little upward mobility is offered through the work that the women get. And there is this belief that some states also have higher benefit levels, and that those higher benefit levels deter women from seeking employment. But again, that is not the case according to most studies. So we have to look at social structural factors rather than those individual factors as to reasons that individuals don't get off of welfare so quickly. And Seccombe says the lack of human capital itself does not necessarily cause one to turn to or remain on welfare. Rather, it makes one more vulnerable to needing assistance when faced with difficult circumstances. This lack of human capital isn't necessarily the cause of these things. It is, she says, it is the interaction and the failure of human capital, structural factors, and social support that prompt the need for welfare assistance. The interaction and failure of human capital, structural factors, and social support, the combination of those that prompt the need for assistance. What are some of the issues in the social structure? Not enough jobs. The unemployment rate varies per social group. Minorities have a higher unemployment rate. Younger people have a higher unemployment rate. And as she mentions, women are usually in the last hired, first fired group, and so that policy tends to be particularly harmful to women. Another issue is the types of jobs that are available. They are low-tier, minimum wage, or part-time jobs, seasonal employment at times, usually often offering at least non-standard schedules and weekend work, night work, those kinds of things. And you can remember from an earlier chapter when Seccombe talked about the fact that this makes finding daycare and accessing public transportation very difficult when you have these jobs that end late at night, or that are on weekends when public transportation may not be running or daycare may not be available. The types of jobs that are available simply are not enough to lift the family out of poverty. And this, she talks about the communities having enacted living wage ordinances that require companies who contract with government agencies to do work for government agencies that they have to offer a living wage in order for them to qualify for this government grant or whatever, rather than minimum wage, a living wage. Now this is only in some communities around the nation, but this is one of these kinds of innovative kinds of ideas that communities and individuals can come up with that can challenge the social structure, the difficulties in the social structure, and make it a more friendly environment for individuals to find work. Health insurance is another issue in the social structure. Uninsured children and adults are more likely to suffer chronic or acute ailments, which means they're going to miss a lot of work. If they don't have health insurance, they're going to miss a lot of school. And many TANF leavers become uninsured when they leave TANF. And some who do get insurance have insurance that won't cover pre-existing conditions. This is one of those things, by the way, another one of those key points in the Obamacare package that has been that it required insurance companies to provide coverage for pre-existing conditions. Finally, the hesitancy to take jobs. It seems risky and irresponsible to leave welfare for the insecurity of low-wage work, the sporadic nature of those work, the dangers of daycare, those kinds of things. And so TANF leavers really kind of have to do a cost-benefit analysis when making that decision. So why is increasing women's education and job skills not enough to really help women leave welfare? If we as a society value and care about the well-being of children, we correspondingly should value a more stable economic and social environment in which to raise them. Welfare works well compared to the lowest tier jobs. And Seccombe is suggesting this is one of the reasons why women don't always want to leave welfare when given the opportunity, because they can offer more security, and in a sense it seems more responsible for them to stay on welfare because they can offer more security to their children and more predictability in their lives by being on public assistance than by taking an unpredictable job in the low-tier workforce category. The number of families receiving welfare had declined to less than 2 million by the end of 2009, yet the data reveal that many of them are not doing very well when they leave welfare for work. And so that is the end of Chapter 8 in the Seccombe text, and we're drawing very close to the end of this book as we conclude this chapter, and she looks at some of the issues that affect welfare recipients today.